in sort of what your relationship to Hedda Gabler was, and sort of when it sort of started percolating that you wanted to adapt this.
I got really into Hedda when I was getting my master's in the UK in writing, and I got it at a drama school because I wanted to work with actors and learn how to work with actors, because even though I went to Tisch Film School undergrad, you don't really learn how to work with actors. It's more like camera, Jim Jarmusch. And so I was like, I should probably figure out, you know, the people that you look at the whole time. And so I did, and we were studying, we did like a theater module, which is where I fell in love with theater, and we read A Doll's House. And I was just so blown away by that play. I think it's a perfect play. I think it's my favorite of his, actually, in a funny way. And I just thought, wow, what a complex, interesting woman, what an amazing like tour de force that he creates, and then ends with this woman leaving her family. And then I got to Hedda, and I was like, oh, he's not fucking around. Like, he really is like challenging people with complex women, and with Hedda, destructive women. And so I was really drawn to that. I was drawn to the messiness of her. I was drawn to the fact that everyone I talked to had a different point of view on who she was, why she does what she does. And I also kind of really loved how funny I thought the play was, and how funny she was, how sexy some of it was, how like sneaky and devious it was, how dark it was. And my brain just started whirring, and then I just started, you know, moving some pieces around.
Tessa, you've worked with Nia many times over now. When did she approach you with this idea, and what was your reaction to the concept of playing Hedda?
I don't remember, actually. One of the great, oh, you don't? Nia has an uncanny memory. Sometimes I'll be like, what year did I do this thing? And she'll tell me, even and especially when she's not involved. But it's so weird. I'm like, what?
I was like, you're dating this person, and then that was happening, and then
yeah. She's like, it's like one of the great joys of having a very close friendship that spans years is they're like your calendar, your diary, or something. But I actually don't remember when she first. I just remember that she said, hey, I'm tinkering with this thing. I may be writing this thing. Can I send you this thing? And then I think it was sort of like, do you want to do this thing? It's going to shoot soon. It was sort of the trajectory. But similarly to Nia, my first time being familiar with Ibsen was A Doll's House. Yeah. And that was when I was a teenager. And then I read Hedda later, but when she started to tell me about what she was thinking about, and then eventually when she sent me the screenplay, I just thought what she did in adaptation was so incredible. If I'm really candid, when she first told me, I was like, sure. I didn't really understand what it could be, what it would be, why it required a new cinematic translation. Yeah. And it wasn't until I read what she wrote that I really understood what the imperative was and what the opportunity was, and I still can't believe that she asked me to do it.
Well, I mean, obviously you have sort of rewritten some of the relationships in the play. Eileen, for instance, is a character that was, I can never pronounce the name. Eilert, I could never pronounce it. Was a man, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of how you started re-envisioning these sort of dynamics, especially in terms of gender, in terms of race, like how you sort of started thinking about, and how that also related to the setting, like where you wanted to place it in time.
Yeah, I mean, I love adapting things, and when I think about adapting something that's like a classic, like Ibsen or Jane Austen or Shakespeare, it's a part of the firmament of drama for all of us. So it's not precious, it's not like me trying to remake Schindler's List or something, which would be very strange. It's really like this thing that you could this is like every day on set, me saying silly things. But you can project what you want into it, and you can, or maybe more accurately, you can shine a light through a specific prism. And so for me, making Eilert Eileen, putting another woman in the story and having it be three women on these parallel paths to personhood, as opposed to one woman fighting against three men in her orbit, brought forward the themes that I was really interested in, which was about a woman trying to figure out how to be a woman trying to understand herself. And so I was like, oh, let's make this about women. Like, you know, I mean, very particular women, but I just thought that would be really interesting. And then the period is another version of me trying to shine a light through a specific prism, which is, I think the 50s are an amazing decade of pretending and of trying to fit everything back into the box after the Second World War blew it up. And sort of the microcosm of that is like in a personal way, the way we try to hide our trauma and the structures we build to be something besides the wounded animals that we are. So I think the 50s as a period is really interesting. But then there's like the practical sort of, at the English country house, the 1950s, the murder mystery, there are these tropes that we're really used to and that we project fantasies on, and Hedda is all about projection of fantasy. So they were all ways that I was just like adding more bricks to this thematic structure that I wanted.
Imogen, I was wondering, you know, because Nia was talking about sort of, now this is about women and these sort of like in between these women, and I was wondering how you sort of approach that, you know, with especially looking at this person who is sort of so reserved, so nervous, and being surrounded by these forces that are Tessa and Nina.
Yeah. You mean in terms of how she fit?
How you saw her fit, and also how you thought about playing her.
Oh yeah, no, it was really, she's such a fascinating part because she's very, as you just said, like she comes across being so frazzled and she's so nervous, such a nervous Nelly. And then over the course of the story, she really does crystallize, and it's the beginnings of that really. She's like a newborn baby in many ways. She's just kind of saved her own life and ended or left her marriage essentially to go in pursuit of what she wants intellectually and sexually. And all of that's kind of brewing throughout the course of the story. And the scenes with Nina Hoss, who's amazing, and with Tessa, they're so cool because it's just, we're all activating something different in one another in those moments. And it's so clever, and that's why, you know, I do think sort of like these plays, like Ibsen's obviously clearly an incredible playwright, but the work can seem so inaccessible or dusty or somehow, and to have this new take on it is really, really important because the themes are the same. And the character dynamics are just as relevant, you know, now as they were then. So it was a great part to play.
George and Tessa, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of how you approached this marriage sort of coming apart at the seams. Tom and Tessa. The character is George, and my brain was.
I'm so convincing.
We did say.
I don't know where I end and George begins.
We did
What
keep
was the
calling this
question?
Tessa Gabler. We always get confused, yeah.
Tessa Gobbles. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Because I fucked up. Because I was talking about George, and I wanted to ask you about playing George and with Tessa, sort of figuring out this naughty, thorny marriage.
I mean, I love playing George because he's, as we said, Nia setting this in the 1950s was so, I think it was a stroke of genius because what's going on in the world on a grand scale, but on a very intimate scale between men and women particularly, I thought George really represented this sort of suffocating man who is in such a position of privilege, doesn't even realize it, just assumes women are below him in every way, despite the fact that this woman that he's just managed to get married to is his superior in every single way. But he still is so bitter and angry at what he doesn't have, and he thinks she's this prop to be used. Hilarious, because he's just this toy that she plays with. But it was really interesting as an actor because when I was working out, right, what does my character want, his objectives, what's he doing in order to get those, it was fascinating because at every step he is thwarted and doesn't know why. He doesn't even have the intellect to understand the fact that he's failing, and it's a sort of fundamental part of him. But I really also loved, I don't know about you, but I remember when we first day rehearsal, we were rehearsing that scene at the beginning of the movie, and it kind of struck me like, maybe there's a part of this guy that is sort of surprised by, this woman's amazing, like she's absolutely incredible, and she's married to me, and like in amongst all of this ambition is also this insecurity of a man who could only dream that a woman like this would sort of look twice at him. I've lost I've lost myself.
No, but I think you're
Enjoy
right
the
about
words.
that in particular.
What's
was- You're totally right about that because, you know, there's that scene where you're talking about getting the house and you're just like felt bad because he was so obsessed with you, which I found
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I also loved, because I feel like in the original source material, you really, at least my read on it was always that this was a marriage just of, that there was never a chance for them. And I think it's often staged that way. I'd seen so many productions where his character is like, there was one production, and no disrespect to the actor, but he was like blowing his nose a lot. There was just this idea of him being this sort of snivelly, disgusting kind of guy. And I feel like there's been shades of that in very many productions. And I just remember Nia one day calling me, because we've been having so many conversations about casting it, and very crudely she just said, "What if George is hot?" And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I think, it's a nice, obviously a nice thing to have someone lovely to look at, but I think also what, sorry, I objectify you all the time, I never mean to, it just happens.
It's okay. It's okay.
I like
Is
that
that right?
Young was
You're
also
on the
in that conversation. Young
Young
and hot.
Yeah, she said young and hot. Just like we like them in Hollywood. And I thought, sorry, and shouldn't have one of these ever. Microphones. But I think also what she meant less crudely is also what if there's something interesting that this could be a marriage that in some other universes could work actually. They're actually more similar than dissimilar. They come from dissimilar worlds in the sense that he comes from academia, she comes from Bohemia. He has more access because of his status, because of his gender, to society. She has less, but in many ways they're ambitious in very similar ways actually, and they're striving and they're aiming for something, and they see both an opportunity in each other and a clear challenge. But I thought it was really, it sort of complicated it relative to some other renderings that I've seen. And I thought that was so interesting.
I think too as well, I did because I don't think I haven't said enough about how amazing Nia is, and like what like I remember reading this translation, and particularly with George, because I knew the play very well, and usually it's the part that you go, you know, you're like, what? Who's this guy? You know, you kind of like nose blowing. But I was so fascinated by him because I thought, wow, Nia's made him like a proper human that you're not laughing at really, like, and he's got proper fears and ambitions. And I just remember this stage direction she wrote where the fireworks scene of everyone standing around enjoying this party, loving life, and George feels nothing. And I thought she's gone into such depth with every single character. She hasn't just said, I'm gonna make Hedda and make her fascinating and new and updated. Every single character had a real depth to them, which isn't just true of George, or it's true of every character in it.
Yeah, well, Nicholas, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Judge Brack and sort of playing this, you know, this is also a very sort of thorny relationship of like long time, almost affection, but also the sort of element of menace. And I was wondering how you thought about that and how you approached him.
Well, there's an element of fun in Brack that isn't in the play.
Yeah.
You know, he's mischievous, he's charismatic, he's cool, he's calm, he's collected. He's a lot of these things, and he's also manipulative. He's also on a power trip. So to have all of those elements to play with was really fun. I really enjoyed the weaving around those parts of him, and you find that Brack and Tessa Hedda and Hedda are kind of Hedda Gabler, yeah, Tessa Gabler. You find that they're kind of similar, and then it's weaving around. Okay, they're kind of similar, but they are within their own right really quite different people. Yeah. And where Hedda is off the rails doing her own thing, he's trying to keep this mask up the whole time and be cool, but he's with everybody else he can manipulate. He's not a very good friend to George. He's doing all sorts of heinous things behind his back, and you know, he's talking about people like they mean nothing.
Yeah.
And a person that means something to him is the one thing he cannot have.
Yeah.
It's the one element that he gets, you know, towards the end, we saw so frustrated that that mask is completely gone. And so the depth and, again, just to Nia's credit, the way that she pulled him out of the shadows of George that's in the play, I thought was just tremendous. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure to play.
Gabrielle, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of, you know, helping to facilitate, like this is a bold and ambitious project, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of helping to facilitate Nia's vision on this as a producer.
Sure. Nia and I and Tessa all worked together on Nia's first film, Little Woods, which was an incredible experience, and for me is like clap for me. And I just always wanted to do something bigger with Nia because I knew she was so capable and so incredibly talented. On Little Woods, we had $5 between us, and it was tough. And so she brought Hedda to me. I feel like really early, like in 2018,
So
like a long
actually,
time
so
ago.
that's when. Yeah, it was spring.
She knows who it is.
Yeah.
And I read it and was like, this is great, we should make it right now. And it was not a tremendously long journey. Our real issue was the strike sort of pushed a bullet through when we were gonna make this and ended up pushing it a little bit. But we went on this incredible journey with Plan B, with Jeremy and Dee Dee to set it up with Orion, and then we were off to the races in the UK, shooting outside of London in this incredible house that took us ages to find. But with Nia having such a clear vision of what she wanted and what she wanted to do, it was really easy to gather this incredible team of craftsmen to like work behind her and this incredible cast. So it was a pleasure.
Can I speak more to what Gabby did? Because I think you're just like saying facts, but like actually like one of the things I like if I talk to like younger filmmakers or whatever, I'm always like find a great producing partner because they're gonna get the movie made, and making our first film together for 7 cents and a couple of PB&J sandwiches was like really hard. And Tessa, bless her, God, the places we had you. It was really about like what Gabby was able to do. Like even with this, like we had the budget we wanted, but still like we had to like I need a strong producerial presence on the film, and we had so many setbacks, you know, like casting changes, and the first house we thought we were going to use, thank God we didn't, and then this house, and that this house was hard to shoot in because the owners were amazing, but it's been the family for 400 years, you know, like everything. And you know, I just to have a true partner and a producer is like super exciting, and also you know having Tessa as a producer in the film and Jeremy and Dee Dee, it was really, I felt so held as a filmmaker and so trusted and supported, and also just I had people who could be like, girl, did you get it? And then I would listen to because I knew they had the film's best interest at heart. So you know, I think what Gabrielle did and what Tessa did and Jeremy and Dee Dee was vital and incredibly important. Obviously.
Well, we have to wrap up soon, but I did want to ask before like I let you go, just about how you thought and how you were working with your cinematographer Sean Bobbitt about creating, you know, both the visual language of this film and also the energy of it, like the way the camera is moving throughout this house, throughout these like scenes with Tessa as Hedda's like sort of energy. And I was wondering how you thought about that and how you sort of envisioned bringing it to life.
Yeah, Sean's my guy. So, you know, this is our second film. We just did a third film together. And he and I are very similar in the way we approach film, which is, you know, neither of us necessarily trying to impose like a style, but we want to go where the story tells us to go, and we also want it to feel different than other things. So, you know, it's a period piece. You already immediately fall into certain tropes and traps, and we were just like, okay, let's let it feel different. So we didn't have any references that were other films necessarily. Like Gosford Park's a big thing for me, but I can reference that just like about anything, you know? I'd be like making a sandwich and I'm like, Gosford Park influenced this experience. But I love, there are parts of that movie where you know, you have like, it's just like such a beautiful Altman film, and then you have these shots of like poison and you're just pushing it out of a poison bottle, you know? And so that influenced like shots like, you know, Brat picking up every piece of evidence in the house. But we talked a lot about painters. There's a painter, Scandinavian painter, whose first name escapes me, but his last name's Hammershoy. That was the place that we looked. And then we really were just like, okay, let's invent. You know, I think every movie we've done, we've kind of created some rig, just because I was like, what if we put this head on this body and move the rod? And he's like, cool, let's all figure it out. And he goes away with like Kika Jem, who's amazing, and then Simon, our amazing operator, like appears, and he's like, boop, 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 and we're like, we have a look. Like, and it's really just us asking questions and me saying, what if we did a Hitchcock Zoom, but instead it was about light? And he's like, great, and he goes, boop, 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 and he comes back and there's a thing, and that's like, and he's someone who like doesn't want to ever use the same like lenses on a film. Although I really love these Crystal Expresses that we use, so I'm like, maybe again. But you know, we're always searching, and it's always influenced by the story and by the character. So that's how we kind of come to the look. It's less about like what do we want this to remind us of, and more like how can we find something new.
Well, I'm so sorry, but we have to wrap up. But thank you so much for all being here.